What's up, everybody, and welcome back. I am your host, Bakari, and today we are going to be talking about the Season 3 premiere of Apple TV's Silo. Now, if you haven't seen Silo, I'm not sure what rock you've been hiding under, but it's a really good show, and you should definitely check it out. It's over on Apple TV, and the first 2 seasons are already there. And also check those out before you watch the rest of this video, because if you don't, you're not going to know anything that I'm talking about, because I'm going to hint at Seasons 1 and 2. I'm going to close out Season 2 a little bit, but this is all about Season 3, because we're going to be dealing with split timelines in Season 3, weaponized amnesia, and we're finally going to go back to, I guess, the beginning of where this all sort of started in 2049. We're going to see the origins of the silo, or the silos, and how everything came to be. But before we go any further, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel, and please keep coming back for more. One thing I did forget to mention is that we're also going to kind of talk about the books Shift and Dust by Hugh Howey, and those are kind of the narrative structure for the Silo TV show. They're not following the books verbatim. They're doing their own thing and creating their own show. The book is basically our timeline where we can attempt to predict some of the events that may take place or may not take place, because there are some characters like Camille that don't exist in the book, and then there are other characters like Sims, her husband, who aren't alive at this point in the book. So I just wanted to use that as an example to show that they're doing their own thing. So this show is not just about a rebellion anymore. We're really about to step into this big corporate bait and switch conspiracy that got everything started. So let's go ahead and dive in and dust off Season 2 of Silo, because last time we saw Juliette Nichols, she had just came back from Silo 17, where she spent some time there after leaving Silo 18 originally, in this underwater graveyard with very, very limited survivors. And that's where we met our man Solo. But the reason she's going back to Silo 18 is to warn everybody, don't come outside. Please stop this damn rebellion, because if you don't, they are going to trigger this safeguard switch and they're going to kill all of you anyway. Now, once she finally gets back, she's trapped in the airlock with Mayor Bernard, who is safe to say has lost control of this entire situation, but they end up being trapped together in the incinerator chamber, and the fire comes on. Now, if the show stays true to the books, and in this situation, I actually think they will, Bernard is toast. He is burnt toast at that. And he's out of here. We will not see Bernard ever again unless they have some type of funeral for him. But Juliette in this situation, she's still alive and she's around. And as we've seen in the Season 3 trailer, she's going to have some amnesia, and we're going to talk about how she gets that amnesia. But the biggest thing that's going on at the end of Season 2 down in a silo is down at the very, very bottom, where Camille, Sims, and their son are talking to the algorithm. And Sims thinks he's this big shot guy and that he's just going to, be the one in charge, and that the algorithm is going to pick him. But nope. The algorithm chooses Camille. You can immediately see his disdain with that choice, and who could blame him? He's been running around the silo this entire time, running things, or appearing to be running things, along with Bernard, and his wife has been basically a stay-at-home mom, and she just kind of came into the action in the last season, and now she gets this ultimate promotion, and that's to talk to the algorithm, and more about that in 1 second. He's been carrying on and thinking that he's this ultimate enforcer, while he was also angling for the head of IT job that his wife was just given by the algorithm. And what happens to him? The algorithm basically tells him, hey, thanks for showing up. Thank you for bringing your wife down here. Your services are no longer needed, at least not for this role. And it has to be the most humiliating demotion that anybody could get, especially in this situation, because you were at the high of highs and you thought you were this big time guy, and your shit doesn't stink and you do anything that you want to do, quite literally, but you get demoted in this entire situation by the supercomputer. So yeah, he basically got reduced to being Ken in the Barbie movie, and now he just gets to sit in the corner and do whatever his wife tells him to do. So that's pretty much my rant, and we can go ahead and get back to the wreckage of everything now, because at the very end of the finale, because it kept dropping bombs at the end of the Season 2 finale, at the very, very end, we get this massive flashback to Washington, D.C. in 2049. And there we meet for the first time Congressman King and a reporter named Helen, and they're out on a date, and they were talking about dirty bombs right before he hands her the Pez dispenser, that infamous Pez dispenser, the same exact relic that Juliette had in Season 1. Now, this is where we're going to read in between the lines a little bit, because Season 3 trailers have given us some deeply concerning clues, in my opinion, about what the establishment is hiding. Now, the biggest and probably the most polarizing reveal in the trailer was that Juliette has amnesia. We also learned the timeline between the incinerator chamber and this amnesia when it started, because it's been about 3 months that she can't remember anything. But we also learned in the trailer that the reason that she can't remember anything and why she has this amnesia is because she's being fed these pills on a daily basis. And without them saying it, I'm pretty sure those pills are probably connected to her amnesia. That's probably what's causing it. That's what they alluded to. So doesn't take a big clue to kind of figure that one out. Now, I'm sure my book purists are going to be a little bit pissed off about that because the amnesia in the books actually belong to a different character. But the way I think they're going to tie this into the show is all about the sinister logic, because the algorithm is telling Camille Sims that Juliette only possesses the memories that they chose to give to her. And they're basically completely gaslighting our main character. And then we have the 2049 before times timeline. And the only big change that I learned here was that they changed one of the characters, Donald, to Daniel King, and that was to avoid any of the current political parallels out here in the world. And we also learned that they're only going to split about a third of the season into flashbacks and, telling us about 2049. So that is good to know that we're not going to spend the entire season in 2049 or even half the season, and that is going to come in the form of flashbacks. But the reason for all of this is to show us the origins of the silos. If you saw the trailers, we saw Daniel and Helen walking into this pristine new silo, and it looks like this big celebratory event. And if you look around, there's this big, massive crowd there, and that's not fishy at all. Now, the biggest disconnect here, and it's done on purpose, obviously, is we have this crowds of smiling people. Everybody is happy. Everybody is very, very joyous, and they're having a good time. But what they don't know is they're probably going to be one of 50 groups of 10,000 people that are about to be locked underground. The one thing I can say the show is probably hiding is the fact that these people did not just run into these silos. They were trying to escape some type of danger or some type of dirty bomb or apocalyptic situation. It seems like they were invited to the silos and that they chose to go there. The original people in 2049, not the ones that are there now. But clearly, all of these people were lured into a trap, and we'll see how this trap unfolds and the workings behind it. So based off the first 2 seasons and some heavy lore from the book Shift and Dust, I think we can somewhat map out exactly where season 3 may be heading, at least for a portion of it. Now, let's start with the apocalypse itself, because that's the event or the event that starts everything. The show quite a few times has hinted at dirty bombs, a nuclear war. Now, if they keep this part of the source material intact, we do know that the silos weren't built to survive some nuclear attack or be somewhere for safety for some type of war that was going to take place. The silos were actually invented because they were trying to save people from these medically produced nanobots that could be launched into the air and quite literally melt your skin. Now, these nanobots were also an invention of the founders, and I think we're going to see it unfold how the founders basically chose themselves for whatever reason. And it really wasn't that smart when you think about being underground for centuries. They're not all dead, if you didn't know that. Speaking of the founders is what I mean. All the founders aren't dead, and we'll definitely touch on that in 1 second. But it was still stupid to basically end humanity all for your own selfish gain when nobody quite literally is going to benefit from the situation on the outside world, because no matter how many people you shoved underground, what the hell is going to happen when one day you do decide to come back up? And just think about how dirty it is for these guys or ladies to purposely force people underground because they want to release these nanobots into the global atmosphere and cause an extinction level event for their own gain. Now, maybe they will explain that a little bit more. Maybe there was overcrowding in the world. Maybe the population was just too much and people weren't surviving for whatever reason. Maybe it was some type of financial reason. We don't know what they'll squeeze into this, the reason why, but it still won't be a good enough reason to end the entire human population. So that really explains the air outside the silos and why it's poisonous for them to go outside. And when they go out there, even in the suits, they eventually still die. It's not because of any type of poison in the air or anything like that. It's because of those flesh-eating nanobots. And that further shows that the suits all the way back to season 1 were purposely designed to fail so that when people walked outside to go over the hill, that they died from the nanobot attack. And that somewhat brings me to my biggest prediction for season 3, and that's the whole Camille Sims paradox. Because as we've seen in the trailer and probably some of the shots from the season, there are 50 silos, and silo 1, at least in the books, is this master control room. But it's not just this master control room, and it's not run by AI. It's actually run by the founders. They put themselves in cryogenic sleep every so often, and then they wake another one up, and then they go on this rotation until the end of this 500-year period when the nanobots aren't in the air anymore. So, like I said, these founders aren't dead, and they're going to be around. But what about all of the people that they decided to kill for their own selfish gain? There's nothing outside rebuilding the outside world for them, so I just don't see the gain in this. And it's messed up at the same time that these guys, these turds of all people, have all the control over all the silos and basically all the people left in the world. And these guys are the ones that get to decide if they're going to kill off an entire silo or not, just because some people rebel. Maybe if you just went ahead and just told them the truth, and then I guess we wouldn't have a story. But maybe you should just go ahead and just tell them the truth. And then if they know the truth, they probably wouldn't want to go outside. And then they wouldn't have anything to worry about. And then this whole rebellion thing wouldn't even be a thing. But like I said, if they did that, we wouldn't have a show and I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. But why is Camille important to all of this? The algorithm is going to expect her to be this somewhat like Bernard, cold, calculated, willing to do anything that they say. Even though I don't think Bernard talked to the algorithm, but that's neither here nor there. Camille has talked to the algorithm, and Camille, for the safety of at least her son and maybe her husband, who seems like he's going to join the rebellion from the trailer, she's going to have to play it safe. And I do think that she is probably going to be somehow working with the rebellion as well, because just based off her character that we've seen so far, I doubt that she wants to be in this type of control and have that much power when the only thing she truly seems to care about is her kid and making sure that everybody is safe. Unless she has a complete character flip, which is completely possible, especially when power comes, I think Camille is actually probably going to be working for the silo while appearing to work for the algorithm in Silo 1 and probably be one of the masterminds behind the ultimate rebellion that takes place. Because that takes me to Juliette and her memory loss that we all know is going to go away at some point. Whenever she gets over this amnesia thing is where it's really going to get interesting, because she's not going to try to go back outside, at least not through the top. If they use the book lore, there are these giant digging machines at the very, very bottom. Remember that big door that we saw? That was the digging machine, or at least where it's located. And I think Juliette and Mechanical and all of their allies are going to take their rebellion down instead of going up, because going up is going to get them killed. They're going to take the rebellion down, and they're going to start digging holes into the different silos. And I think this is how people like Solo will come back into play in different silos. Because I think this is all probably leading up to one big war with Silo 1. I haven't finished the last book, so I don't know exactly how it ends, but it just feels like this is all leading up to one big war with Silo 1, and I'm not sure what good it's going to do them other than them being in control and not having anybody to tell them what to do, potentially. Once we get to season 4, 5, 6, and however many they decide to have of Silo, but for right now, I'm not sure how it ultimately ends, but I think it's going to end with the connection of at least some of the silos, because it's going to be real hard for them to get to 50 silos in one season. So I do think we'll see at least one or two of them connected, and it'll be implied that they've probably been connected to the other ones throughout time. And this will ultimately lead to some big. So what do you guys think is going to happen in Silo Season 3? Where do you guys think Silo Season 3 is going to take us going into the future? Have you read the books Shift and Dust to kind of get some background on what may actually be going on? Because after I found out that this show was based off books, that's exactly what I did, because I just couldn't wrap my head around a few things. So I just kind of wanted to know what might be happening. And that's how I kind of learned that Sim's character doesn't last very long and that Camille doesn't exist at all. And there are a few other interesting characters that I hope they bring into the show, and I think they are. And I'm not going to bring them up right now just in case they don't. But I think they are on the political side, so we'll just see how that plays out. But let me know what you guys think about everything. Let me know if you're ready for Silo Season 3, because I'm very ready for Silo Season 3. This is my little preview into Season 3, and I don't know how Episode 1 is going to start, but I imagine we're going to pick right back up from the incinerator chamber, and we're probably going to see a barbecue Bernard and a Juliette that's barely making it, and then we'll see how everything plays out into this amnesia trip that she's going to be on. So stick with me on Silo Season 3. I can't wait to see all your comments, theories, and predictions as we get through this season. And it's going to be a good time. So stay connected. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please don't forget to drop a comment down in the comment section. And with all of that being said, I will see you all in the next one.